Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici. Welcome, my friends. My name is Vincenzo, and welcome to my channel. And the channel is Fountain Pen Therapy. Well, once a year, at the beginning of every year, I sit down and I take a look at all the notebooks, journals, notepads that I've gathered, that I have in my collection, and I decide on my journal and notebook setup for my life, basically for the entire, for the rest of the year. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't change things or when they don't quite live up to expectations, but at least I go through the exercise. And I got to tell you, it was a fun exercise, and I just want to share that with you. Now, in terms of setup, I have various categories. First of all, I'm going to set up my journals or my journal and my notebook for professional reasons, for the office, so to speak. Secondly, I'm going to have a setup for my YouTube channel. So things that are peculiar to a YouTube channel, you know, planning of the videos, planning of my recaps, my purchases, etc., etc. Anything to do with my YouTube channel. And third is generally my collection of either inks, pens, or paper. Not specific to my channel, but just generally speaking, I'm a collector, right? Like everybody else. And last but not least, my personal journals. What I mean by that, where I doodle, where I have a lot of fun just writing, experimenting with pens, just seeing how pens write generally, or expressing my thoughts. But, I don't do daily journals of my life because I have enough of my life. I don't need to repeat it. I'm not that kind of a journal guy. I just like to play with my pens. And, I'll write things. I'll write all kinds of things. But most of the time, it's stuff that pleases me. Okay? So those are my personal journals. Those are my various categories. I thought I'd share my setup with you. So without any further ado, Fountain Pen Therapy presents its 2026 Journal and Notebook Setup. Okay, so let's look at the setup for office or for professional reasons. Okay, let's go to my overhead camera right away. You'll see here that I have 3 notebooks, okay, or journals, if you will. Now, let me explain. For my office purposes, yes, I do use generally, what we, those cheap legal pads, okay, to write notes at any given point of time. That's always forms part of the equation. But what I use the agendas for is more like a list of things to do, telephone numbers that I need to call, key dates that I need to remember for the week. And so I have a daily log of these things. And these are the 3 options that I had. I have the Hobonichi Techo 2026, the cousin. And as you can see, it's organized. I've got 1 page per day. Months are color coded, and at the beginning of the journal, you have weekly format, and you have monthly. You have dates, so you have the calendar for the year. Okay, so that's the Hobonichi. That has good Sanson Tomo River paper. Last year was a disaster, but they've assured everybody that they've corrected the situation. So it's Tomo River Sanson paper. Then we have this Chinese horse. It's just a cover. It's the Kimbor. And as you can see, it's a Kimbor is an imitation, if you will, of the Obonichi. The only difference, very little color coding. Everything is basically in gray. But again, it's a grid. It has the calendar at the beginning. It has the daily, weekly spread. So that's the Kimbor with what they refer to as Chinese Tomo River paper. We've always wondered what it is, but it in my view, it writes very similar to the Sanson. Last is this notebook proposed by Wonderland 222, and all of this I will put links in my description. This one is kind of a no dates sort of a system. All you have is little lines there, so you could put the date if you wish, and it's just a bunch of pages. Okay, so there are no calendars anyway, anywhere, so you can put the dates as you go along, which can be convenient as well. This one in particular has Tomo River, the original. Okay, and this one is in the $30 range, Canadian $30 range, and this one I paid like 3 times. I think I paid 80 something by the time I got through custom duties and deliveries. It's exaggerated, but I did it for the channel because I did one. In particular, I was comparing these two at the time. Now I got 3, and I had to decide. The decision I've made is that I'm going to go with the Obonichi. I mean, logic is as follows. I've tested it. The writing is pretty nice. So whatever problem they had, I think they corrected. And you know what? It's the original. I paid $80 for it. I might as well get some use out of it. That's the logic. I have, however, found use for the other 2, and we'll get back to that in just a few seconds. So we'll put those aside. Now, how am I going to build my setup? Let me show you. Let me just close up a little bit. First of all, last year, I had everything in this leather casing. I slipped in the notebooks that way. Very nice over time. Expensive. This cost me a fortune. But this year, I think I'm going to go a little bit different. I'll explain why. So I'll have another use for that leather cover for sure. That one, by the way, also had my name printed at the end here. But having said that, here's what I'm going to do this time. This notebook, this cover, by the way, is not expensive at all. I bought it on AliExpress. It offers the option of either slipping in a notebook or a notepad. It's got, an insertion there. I figured on this side, I'm going to put any notepad. I've chosen Rhodia. And here I'm going to insert, as so, my Obonichi. The reason being that I found myself sometime taking notes on a telephone conversation, for example, with a client. And if it's a detailed conversation or a long one, many notes, I end up filling the page of that day just with notes. So it kind of interrupts, and that's not the purpose of this notebook. This is just to take track of a number or a things to do, but not detailed notes. Just because I can't find a pad or what I figured I'd do is if I do get a conversation or if I am required to take detailed notes, well, I have a notepad readily available. And both I can close, come up with me. It has a nice elastic band to shut everything down so I can easily pack this. And it also has a very convenient pen loop. And you can see, it fit in a big pen, which is the Majon P141. It's not a small pen, and it fits really nicely so that if I'm required to either take this to my conference room or to another office or at a meeting, I'll have the pen, my notepad, and my agenda all readily available at my fingertips. So that's going to be my setup for this year. At least I'm going to try it, and we'll see where it takes us. Office professional setup. Stay tuned for the next one. Okay, so the next setup is with regard to my YouTube channel. What kind of notes or journals do I require specifically for my YouTube? Well, in this notebook that I've showed you earlier, which has dates, this is going to be my YouTube review or videos or the recap, the planning for such. So for example, I have here, I'm planning my recap for January the 25th, just a bird's eye view. And I'm starting on the 14th, the planning. And, you know, it evolves, right? I may receive some pens. I may receive or have another idea. And as it evolves, I have the week to take notes. And then on the 25th, I will give you my final version. So for example, inks of the week, I plan certain inks. The paper of the week to be decided. Here's the pen all that I want to look at. These are the options, etc. So this is going to be my YouTube review and recap planner, if you will. But I need another one. And what this one will serve as, essentially, it's going to serve for example, I want to keep track of my purchases. What do I have in the pipeline? What have I ordered, for example? Or, you know, long-term ideas that are not really planned, but just put some ideas on paper as to future reviews. I have a comment from a viewer who has a question. I will note the question. There's suggestions for future reviews. I will note the suggestion. Keep track of my financial aspects for my channel as well. In other words, how much money have I spent this week? You know, what's my budget for the following week? Including all the things that I need to review. Sometimes you lose track and you say, okay, what is it that I've got to review? So this is a kind of a general journal. It will also complement, of course, the other one. This is where you actually do the actual planning. Once you've decided what you're going to do, you plan out, and it goes in here. This is just the ideas journal. So there you have it. That's going to be, and this is the Chinese imitation, the Kimbor. And this one here is the Dingbat. By the way, I really like how this paper's turned out. It's a hardcover. It has a pen loop as well. So I can carry this, for example, I'm watching YouTube on my TV set upstairs, just relaxing, and I see a video from Hemingway Jones. He gives me a great idea. Take out my notepad. If I have it next to me, I will note down the ideas there. So there you have it. That's going to be my setup for YouTube. Okay, the next setup is, which serves a purpose both for my collection and for YouTube. You'll remember that most of the time when I do a pen review, for example, I will have a writing sample, and the writing sample will indicate the name of the pen, the ink, the paper, my comments. You've seen that before. Last year what I did is I used individual sheets, either Tomoe River from a notepad or others, and then I would take the sheets and make some holes, and I would file them in this binder. So here you have all the pens that I've reviewed, and these are all the writing samples of my pens with the date. Gives me an idea of what I purchased during the year, and I have record of what I said about the pen at the time that I reviewed it. I found this a little bit tedious, and frankly, because now you've got two things to worry about instead of one. So what I decided to do this year is, remember this notebook that I showed you early on that I didn't keep for my professional agenda? I decided to use this notebook, and I've got plenty, so I've got another one already set up, and I put it in this cover. And as I mentioned to you, this is kind of free, right? There's no preconceived dates or anything. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my reviews one by one at a time in this notebook. And you'll see, for example, I've transcribed the review of a pen here so that I keep track of it. And that's the way I'm going to keep track of all my reviews. If I do any other writing samples, for example, of just generally writing samples from my recap, or a writing sample from my or any other review, frankly, where I have maybe 15 pens. And you remember, for those of you who follow my channel, I have writing samples of various pens. It'll be included in here. What I'm going to do is I've ordered from Wonderland 222 a bunch of tabs. So I'm going to tab this because at the end of the day, in terms of pens, I can only really review roughly one a week if I'm lucky. So we're talking about 50, 60 pens that I will be reviewing. So it'll be 50 or 60 sheets. That's all I need. The rest of the binder will be writing samples. And I could put writing sample, recap, writing sample from blog videos, etc. I will set out my categories as I go along with the tabs. So basically, this is going to be, if you will, my writing sample journal. There you have it. Stay tuned for the next one. Now, to complement my ink swatching, I've undertaken this year, or committed to keep track of the inks that I have in the different pens. When I ink a pen, automatically it will get recorded in this notebook. This is a Galen Leather Tomo River Sanson notebook, which, by the way, is a disaster. I think it's the bad batch. Everybody knows that I think it was last year or the year before, we had a very bad batch of Sanson notebooks. I think that this one forms part of that, although I've never seen it confirmed that Galen Leather had the same problem as Obonichi, but just writing with this paper was awful. I just didn't like it. But on the other hand, I've got all this. I paid quite a bit of money for this, so I'm going to be using this notebook to record. And you can take notes. It's no big deal. To record the inking of my pens, so I have them all down, so that if a viewer, after I publish a recap, asks me a question about what ink I had in what pen, I'll be able to give them an answer. And for my own purposes, if I want to re-ink the same pen with the same ink, I will know which one. Because I often have the bad habit of re-inking the pen with different inks, and it's not the recommended way of doing things. So there you have it. This is going to be my ink in the pens journal for 2026. Okay, so the next category is the personal journaling. Where will I do my personal journaling? Well, I have three notebooks to propose here. The one you see in the middle here is my 5-year journal from Obonichi. And as you can see, I haven't been very, very active in it. You'll have occasional entries. I can't get because the way it works here is you have 24, 25, 2026, 27, 2028. So this is a 5-year journal going from 2024 to 2028. And there's daily entries plus an empty page for every day. And like I said, I'm not the type of journaler that will rehash the day, unfortunately. If there's a particular happy event, I will do it. But I'm going to try to just pay a little more attention to this journal and see if I could, add more to it, because it's a great way to keep track of your life, so to speak, over the years. Okay. But, I'm going to try. I'm really going to try. I know it was very useful during COVID because we had all kinds of things happening. And I have another journal that went before 2024 that had a lot more entries, but very negative. But, we can look back 15 years from now and show hopefully my grandchildren what happened during COVID. So some of the highlights of my life, and especially the positive stuff, I think I'm going to try to make a lot more entries this year in this 5-year agenda. That's the first personal journal. Secondly, these are going to be my doodling and my just having fun journaling notebooks. This one I've started during the vacation in Spain and Portugal. You can see it has a lot of entries already. And this one here is kind of a continuation of last year, where I've done, quite a bit as well. I think this is more going to be my thoughts about all kinds of things, and this one's going to be more my tester of pens, if you will. So this one, testing pens and inks and whether they dry up on you, etc. And this one's going to be more ideas and reflection on all kinds of stuff and just writing, if you will. So now, what notebooks are in there? In both instances, let me just show you what the notebooks are. They're called the Writer. Tomoe River, this is Tomoe River original paper, okay? And they are put together by Nanami. Actually, it doesn't appear here. But you can find these on the Nanami paper site. But I've seen them also being sold now. They're called the 7 Seas Writer. They come in a little box that you can file from year to year. And it's 7 millimeter rule. It's an A5. And it's also referred to as the studionote.com. So I'm going to put all these references in the description below. Nanami, unfortunately, doesn't deliver to Canada anymore. But I got a bunch of these that are still left over. And I've also managed to get them elsewhere. And there's a couple of other sites that are starting to sell them as well. So then I have the same type of notebook in both. This one here that comes with this beautiful, I bought this in Italy. So this one's always, this is going to be like the special one, if you will. Special reflection, ideas and all kinds of stuff. And this one will be more like my tester of inks and pens and, just doodling, just to see how the pens are doing, for kind of a revisit of pens 2 or 3 days later. This will serve that purpose. So there you have my setup for personal journals. Now, my last category is I have these small, this is a size A6, and this is, I keep forgetting if it's, they call it B5 or B6, but it's a little bit bigger than A6, okay? My apologies, I should have known that. But I've used this one as my kind of my travel journal. In other words, it's easy to put in a little bag, and I used it in Spain. It also has this portable clip that I've attached to it, or loop. You can put a pen in there. And so any highlights that I want to record on the road, this is usually the one that I will use and will continue to be used. The paper that I have in there, again, is I purchased this on the Nanami paper. It's called the Cafe Note. Okay, it comes in this little box. And very nice paper. Again, Tomoe River paper original. I got a few of these. So while they last, they will be used as part of my travel journal. This one I usually keep next to my, basically in my living room when I'm watching television or reading a book. And it's a small size, and I got to use it because look at all the A6 notebooks I have. I have old Obonichis that are unused. I have Kimbor. I have Sterling. I have, this one is Stalogy. This one is another Cafe Note, a smaller sized A6 Cafe Note. All Tomoe River except the Stalogy. And I'm going to start using these things. And these are going to be my notes next to my television. I've changed my mind. I mentioned the other notebook, but I think this is the one that's going to be permanently stationed in my living room. It has a little pen loop there as well, and we'll leave it there. So if I see anything that's interesting or I get any thoughts while I'm reading a book, while I'm watching television or a YouTube review or anything like that, there you have it. I have it readily available. It's also very portable. So if I change my mind, or if I find that this is a little too big, want a smaller one, this will do the trick as well. So there you have it. This is kind of my small size notebooks used for quick note taking or traveling. These will serve the purpose. There you have it. There you go. I hope that wasn't too much information, but I thought I'd share with you. And it was a lot of fun because I took out all my notebooks, spread them all out on a big table, and kind of picked and choose. I also did some writing on various notebooks to kind of choose which ones I would ultimately retain as my daily drivers, so to speak. It also gave me an idea for another video, which is one, I've got to review all the notebooks for 2025 that I purchased in 2025, or all the paper products. And I also got to look for what I think is going to be probably the best alternative to Tomoe River Original that I'm constantly looking for, and that I've asked you, my viewers, to suggest things. So far, you suggested lots of stuff, but I have them all. So they're all been taken down. There's a list. And one day I will sit down and do an exhaustive review of each one and make my decision, go through the process, videotape it so you could see it as a review, and then I'll give you my ultimate top 3, let's say, alternatives to Tomoe River paper. Because I've noticed that my inventory of Tomoe River paper is dwindling slowly but surely. So I've got to be careful. One day I'll wake up and have no more of that paper and I'd be totally lost. So I need to start planning ahead of time for the alternative. In any event, thank you very much for joining me for another video. I hope that was enjoyable. Please enjoy your pens, your paper, and your inks. And most importantly, be well. Ciao.